Oh, so we are live, popping and streaming. Good morning to everybody. We are, what are we at? Thursday. All right, so first up, I'm Vern, the host, making sure we're bringing you health, happiness, all that good stuff every Monday through Friday, 8:45 Central, 8:45 Eastern, 7:45 Central. Talking about different ways that you can leverage happiness, that you can, balance out a lot of the positivity, balance out a lot of the negativity out there with positive. Right. And so, what I'm talking about this day is the fail of the week. It's important to talk about the fails. It's so important to talk about the things that didn't go right because it gives a more realistic picture of some people. But it's also about better ways that you can, adjust and you can pivot because that's where we learn the most. It's not where it's everything goes right and everything's peachy keen and everything's great, but it's where things don't go wrong, don't go the way you expect. And it's like, how do you bounce back? There's always a human element of success and getting through things. So my big fail of the week, and I'm big on sharing my personal fails because I do not wear a crown on my head. I am not perfect. But my biggest fail this week, and I'm saying this to a lot of my parents out there. What is this? That's weird. There we go. A lot of the parents out there, there is a guilt factor with being an entrepreneur. There can be a guilt factor with being an entrepreneur and being successful. School's closed this week. And I have all these great things I want to do with my little buddy. And I got my gingerbread. We're so excited. He's between 6 to 8 years old. And he's at that stage where he just wants so much love, wants some attention, still from his friends, but also, from dad, right? And this was on Sunday or Monday, I believe. Dad got involved in work. I love what I do. And then sometimes, when you love what you do, you're so locked in. And anybody who knows me, I get locked in, I get hyper focused sometimes because it's like, oh my gosh, I'm getting it. It's not that other things don't matter, but I get locked in. And I'm one of those people that it takes a little jarring to get to me. And I'm sitting at this desk and I'm talking with people and I'm doing different videos, doing some videos and things for, members. And time flew by. I was 2 hours late for us going out and having fun. And I was going out from us just having a good time. And it's not that I had promised it to him. I'm big on if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. I'm huge on that. I did not have that growing up. It bothers me so much when parents don't do that. Don't tell people things and then not do it. It becomes an expectation to them. They get stuck on it because you said something. It's about being congruent. All right, cool. Appreciate that. And I know what that feels like. I've really struggled to not struggle, but I really strive to eliminate that. But you know what? These things happen sometimes. A problem that came about, but I was locked in. No matter what I wanted to do for him and to show him so much love and appreciation and make sure that he knows that daddy loves him because I recognize a place where a lot of black boys are in this country. To be really blunt here. And that's in no way, shape, or form. My concern that's going to be him, but I'm always trying to make sure that he knows what love is, right? Because if you don't know love, you can't show love. And we all have, different versions of love. And my version of love that I'm always trying to teach him is time. Time is the hardest thing to give, the hardest. It's easy to throw a bunch of money at stuff, get people to give time, but I was not able to give them the time that I wanted. And that hurt my feelings. As I sat back in this chair, I'm like, I looked over, because I can see him clearly, and I felt terrible. And there was a sense that I had failed. Now, I know a lot of people, semantics would come in and say, no, you didn't fail. You got to recognize that. I don't want to hear that. I'm telling you, as a parent who grew up the way that I grew up, struggling, starving, hungry, not paid attention to, I do not ever want to pass that on to my child. I felt like I had failed. And feeling failure is not a feeling, it is a judgment. And I got judgmental of myself. And when I started feeling that, I could feel it where I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I'd fallen. As we speak of the devil, he's just woke up. I can't believe I'd fallen. And I'm thinking all of these things. Meanwhile, time's ticking, time's ticking, time's ticking, time's ticking, time's ticking, time's ticking. And it was 15, 20 minutes. And I'm just sitting there like, oh my gosh. And I'm still thinking about what I didn't do versus thinking about what I needed to do. What was the important thing? The important thing here to do. And when I've got myself together, and it takes some time, and I hear one of those people that tells you, like, oh, it took me 5 minutes and I bounced back. No, it took me a good 20 minutes to recover, realizing that, oh man, I, I didn't do what I wanted to do. And that hurt me. I'm more sensitive to that the way I grew up. But what I did there, that was different than typically how I might have handled things maybe 10 years ago was it's like, let me go make this right by doing X. We went out the next day because we weren't able to go out there. It was a big crowd where we wanted to do. We went out bowling. We had a really good time. But sometimes, as entrepreneurs, as parents, we are going to fall a little short in our pursuit to create for this great income for a great life for our families by providing income or to create these great experiences for our families. We are going to fall short sometimes, or maybe fall not maybe not fall short, but not even live up to the expectations that we want. That was more of a wish list. I had no idea, I had no indication that things would have went awry the way that they did that day. But when we start making these mishaps as parents, it's important for us to say, what can I do to be better? How can I make sure I keep a lot of things like this top of mind? And the big thing for me was like, I need to start setting a timer, and I need to set a timer, but also it's about I need to be a little bit easier on myself. And that fail really reminded me that maybe I'm being a little bit too hard on myself. I never told him. Thankfully so. And typically I'm like, all right, we're gonna be doing this, or I tell let him know we got an activity plan. I hadn't done that. So all that guilt and all that shame and all that judgment I felt was for nothing. He wasn't even upset. I was upset. And it was just one of those moments where I sat back and I realized like this wasn't even necessary, but I had to interrupt that pattern with some common sense thinking. Who's upset? Who's being let down by this? Me. And even if he did know, I'm big on communicating things, and I talk with him, respective of his age, and I let him know, like, hey, Daddy had some things planned, but I wasn't able to get to those today. But here's what we're going to do. His eyes lit up so big and bright, and it was just reminding me. I'm like, I would have sat in this for days. I would have sat in this for hours when all it took was a conversation. That's the beauty of not looking at yourself critically and judgment wise, and not feeling bad and down and hard on yourself, and quite honestly, getting in action to make it right. That fail reminded me like we got to get in action when things don't go the way we want. And that judgment, shame, and guilt doesn't change the fact that you can go out there and make it a lot better in some cases. He didn't know life is good. And that is my fail of the week. Thank you, Jane. My fail of the week is recognizing that judgment and guilt don't a reminder for me. It's more so what the fail is for me. The reminder that I've got to make sure that before I get judgment and critical, let's me look at some of the facts. Some of the facts. I hadn't talked with him about it. Great. Was I working just to be working and be busy and to avoid him? No. I've got things planned for him for next year and the next in 2 to 3 months that all of that is going to be for. And it's just that reminder. But before we get critical or judgmental wrapping this up, before we look at ourselves of what's wrong, especially as parents, as entrepreneurs, as people who are trying to provide just such a great experiences, great life, and just a great, just life. I can't say it anymore, any clearer. Remember that there is a level of humanity that you got to accept. I love Iron Man. I love Marvel. I love Spider-Man. But guess what? Under those masks and those suits, there's still a human being there. Don't let a human moment interrupt you from having a really superhero life. Okay? You're allowed to make mistakes. You're allowed to get behind, and it's all right. Everything's good and everything's going to be all right. Got any questions? Feel free to ask. I want to thank you all for watching. I will see you tomorrow. Fail of the week. It's actually just a reminder of the week for you. Peace.